The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we have encouraged you all along to like and share them on your favorite social media and with all your friends and neighbors, because if it's happening on the Treasure Coast, you'll probably hear it on the Sue Ellen Sanders Show. You're just in time. Here's Sue Ellen Sanders.
Welcome to the show, and we're so glad you're here. This is going to be the type of show that if you wanted to listen to it again and again, going to YouTube and listening to the recording, it might be helpful, because we're going to be talking about hurricane season. We are in the beginning of it. But hurricane season now lasts so long in Florida and everywhere that it feels like it's more than 50% of the year. I have with me two experts for St. Lucie County. Ron Guerrero is the director of the Department of Public Safety for St. Lucie County, and Sonja Hawkins is the division manager of emergency management for St. Lucie County. And they are here because we're going to get all of the information that we need to know. You may have already been to a hurricane fair. You may have been to a fair along the year or along the decade or so that you lived in Florida, or maybe you are new to Florida and to our location, and so you didn't go through the two hurricanes in 2004 that we did that were a direct result. So Sonja and Ron, I know that both of you have been with St. Lucie County and dealing with emergency management for a long time. Let's get to know both of you. Ron, you want to start?
Sure. I've been with St. Lucie County for the last year. Prior to that, I've worked at the local, state, and federal level for the last 22 years. So I've been a public servant for quite some time, and just being here in St. Lucie County, it's been a great experience. Being able to help and prepare our citizens and visitors have been very, very good the last year. So I'm thank you for the invitation, and I'm very happy, excited to share information with our listeners.
Awesome. Sonja.
Well, Sonja Hawkins, and I'm actually coming from Martin County Emergency Management.
Oh, so you were here in 2004 too.
Well, actually, I was with the Department of Health in 2004, the county health department there. So yeah, we mostly said that's
just
Charlie, Francis, and Jean.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a song almost.
Yes,
Abraham, Martin, and John. We could rewrite that all about hurricanes.
Right. So I've been in this for a while. Sue Ellen there, like I said, come from the state level Department of Health, and then I went to the county level. And I've been with Ron and his team there for the last 30 days. So again, I was with Martin County in emergency management for 3 years. So like I tell people, I'm not new to emergency management. I'm just new to Ron.
And I know that both of you, when I walked in and met you face to face, I introduced myself first as Marty Sanders' wife, because Marty Sanders is the school district's man in the emergency management shelter for hurricanes too. He is right now, and has been for about the last 22 years, although he's going to be retiring soon. So I got the two of you talking about Marty Sanders stories, and we were laughing a little bit about them, and I shared that I know I'm the Sue Ellen left at home while Marty goes to the EOC to prepare for hurricanes. I learned, especially when we had the boards that were over our windows, that when you take the boards down off the windows and don't want to sit in a dark house because your husband is off checking out all the schools, that you don't take the top screws out first, because then the board will fall on you.
Yes.
So, I mean, those are little minor things to think about when you're doing hurricane prep or after the hurricane. But there are so many things And there are so many people that are new to Florida, and they don't understand how for more than 6 months a year that we're tuned into the Weather Channel.
Yes, we are.
So tell us. I can't even imagine where to begin. Should we begin with some of the very basics?
So, you know what? I'm just going to follow your lead when you talk about you and Marty and how you were home along there.
Okay.
So we talk about that family preparedness there.
Mm-hmm.
So Marty had to make sure that you were prepared in order for him to be the liaison at the EOC for us. And what we have told our staff members and families and friends, if family is taken care of, then I can go to work and work for the citizens of St. Lucie County. So Marty made sure you were taken care of so he can concentrate on his job.
And, you know, there's a good point you're making because of all of the people that you're trying to tell how to be prepared at home. There are a lot of people who have to go to work anyhow. You know, you're looking at the firefighters, all of the first responders. You're looking at, you know, all of the county folks, a lot of the school district folks, the people who are running the shelters, the people who, you know, even grocery store workers, people who are there and they can't spend the whole 3 days before a hurricane approaching preparing for it. So cutting to the chase with family preparedness, what is the single most important thing to do?
Well, having a plan, having that plan that Sonja mentioned, and it's a year-round thing. It's not just as we're approaching hurricane season. This is something that should be planned throughout the year with the family, so that way when we enter hurricane season June 1st, everything is set and ready to go. And that family plan is making sure that we know that the family knows where to go in case of an emergency, where they're going to be their meeting point, having important numbers on hand. Simple as, you know, what is the nearest shelter. Very minor things that you probably foresee looking like you're not going to think that's going to be relevant, but that's what that plan entails, and ensuring that everyone knows what to do if someone, like you mentioned, has to go out and work, that they can be safe and secure within their own home.
One of the other things that when, of course, now that there are cell phones and that everybody has a cell phone, it kind of makes people more secure in knowing that at all times they can reach somebody. But in the middle of a storm, if you've lost your power and you're not able to charge a cell phone, or if the circuits are busy, or the other danger about having a cell phone is maybe you don't remember the phone numbers of the people that you call all the time because you have them stored in your phone. So I bet hurricane preparedness has changed a little over the years.
I would say so. So doing most of our presentations with our HOAs, because we have, I consider them seasoned residents there because they're much older, and kind of remind them because nobody remembers a phone number anymore. When we were young, we remembered all our phone numbers, but now everything is logged into your phone there. So I remind them, write all those phone numbers down, take a picture. So you still can get to your pictures, even if you can't even use the phone, but that way they will still have their contact list. And I also remind them, take a picture of your passports, your insurance cards. Start taking pictures of your home. A lot of times we forget that. That's that personal preparedness. Take a picture of your home now, all 4 sides of it there. Take a picture of everything that's of a value. That's on your phone, because if something happens, the insurance company is going to say, well, do you have a picture of what it looked like before? Then your answer is yes, I do. So you have before and after photos there. That's part of that family's preparedness.
And one of the worst things in a crisis is having to try to remember what was in your home. So even having the photos to jog your memory as well, because you might forget half the things that are in there, and cut yourself loose. So let's take us back years, many years. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I remember having jalousie windows and my mom running masking tape over the windows. And nobody does that anymore. No. And that didn't really work.
No.
Because the only thing it did is it kept the glass from shattering, but the glass still broke.
Correct.
And you still were able to get into the room. Are there any other myths for homeowners that they should not worry about? I mean, you got this whole list of things that are important to do, but what are the things that, like the taping? Because every once in a while I'll drive by a house and I'll still see that tape down it.
Right.
But just so everybody knows, that doesn't work.
Correct.
Don't use masking tape.
Definitely. That's the one thing. I mean, the list, there's several, but for example, you mentioned it. If you can buy shutters, regular shutters, and get them professionally installed, obviously a wooden panel would be somewhat protective, not to the fullest as a metal shutter, but a wooden panel would do it. So that will be in lieu of putting masking tape on the windows. Some people just venture out and not do anything, leave the house unprotected. We definitely discourage that. We want to make sure that they take care of protecting their home to the best of their abilities, trimming the trees around prior to hurricane season, ensuring that the trees are not in a condition that could topple over the house or somewhere. So just having that preventative maintenance ahead of hurricane season, again, throughout the year, would definitely help in that preparedness phase. So you can do little things at a time throughout the year in order to be prepared. But to walk away from that, things that should not be done, you should always be listening to the local officials and, reading something like our Hurricane Preparedness Guide, where it has those vital pieces of information on how to properly get prepared and not kind of do the hearsay things. So that is one of the things that we always recommend our residents to do, is just do the things that are recommended by your local officials, those subject matter experts in weather and in preparedness. So that way you're truly prepared and not guesstimating what to do and what not to do. Because then at the end of the day, it's just going to create more havoc and just more confusion for the residents.
Now, you have an actual hurricane guide that has both location, generic, and specific to St. Lucie County information. So some of them are hints that anybody can use, and some of them are specific to what it's like in St. Lucie County and what you need to do in St. Lucie County. How can people get a hold of that?
Sure. So they can visit our website, www.stlucie.gov/EOC. That's www.stlucie.gov/EOC. There you can download our Hurricane Preparedness Guide. You can also call us at 772-462-8100, 772-462-8100, and we'll make sure that anyone receives that Hurricane Preparedness Guide. That has all the information that we talked in the beginning as far as having a plan, what that truly entails, building an emergency kit. So besides the plan, you also want to make sure that you have a kit with food, some canned food, water, first aid, medication, and so forth. So all that information on how to get prepared is in our disaster preparedness guide.
Can people pick it up too at the county building?
Yes, our administration building, the libraries as well, and multiple facilities throughout the county. This is always available.
So you can pick up a copy of it.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you may want to have a physical copy of
Absolutely.
it to go through, and maybe to highlight things that specifically deal with your situation. How else can people prepare? Because when we're talking about disaster management and emergency management, it's really about more than just hurricanes. Especially during the summer where we have these quick summer storms, a lot of them are tornado inducing, and that's something important to know. When so some questions to look at here is, when do you really need to go into a safe room? Because the TV weathermen are anxiety inducing. And you know that they live for this information to get very excited about it. And I'm not saying that they're misleading us in any way. I'm just saying that they are so excited to be able to tell you about an emergency because they have the starring role. So sometimes it feels like maybe they're exaggerating the emergency. How do you know when it's really something where you got to get into a closet or you got to find your safe space? And how do you know when you should just leave the house and go to emergency shelter?
Well, first of all, Sue Ellen, when it comes to Florida there, yes, we do have our summer storms, and we often tell our visitors from up north, they say, is this a hurricane? No, ma'am, this is not a hurricane. It's just a summer storm there. So when you're talking about that preparedness piece there, this is what we're used to in Florida. So those showers, those, like last night, we had a thunder that was so loud, I mean, it kind of shook your house. Well, me, myself, I just went to sleep because, in about 15 minutes it's going to be over. So again, but that's Florida. What happens with our visitors and our new residents here, they just don't understand what those things are. So in Florida, we have flooding there. So if you know your area, you know what pockets of St. Lucie County floods there. So again, it's that preparedness piece there. You don't need to leave your house for everything. Just make sure your home is secured. If you're in a low-lying area, that's your sandbags. And my one thing, if I tell residents that if they don't hear anything else, you don't have to wait for us to tell you to leave when it comes to evacuation. You can leave if you feel unsafe yourself there. But don't wait till the last minute because you're going to be out there on that highway with 5,000 other people that decide to leave on the same time that you did. So again, that's that pre-planning when we're talking about. That's what we want them to do is pre-plan. We also ask them to sign up for Alert St. Lucie. That's how you would get your alerts on your cell phones because many people don't have home phones anymore. But Alert St. Lucie and the National Weather Service, they also use that alert mechanism.
Well, there were a number of people who unsubscribed when they got that 4:30 a.m. Alert call a couple months ago. So I know it did not come from you all.
It did not come from St. Lucie County. You're right.
Right.
Or any county.
Or any county. That's right.
It came from somebody making a mistake at the state level. And actually, as I understand it, it was supposed to go out on TV networks, so it would only have affected the people who are already up watching TV. So if you were one of those people, and I have to admit that right away I was one of those people until I heard the background, who unsubscribed to the emergency stuff, go ahead now and resubscribe again.
Yeah, we definitely encourage them to sign up at, again, our website, www.stlucieco.gov/EOC. You'll find the link to sign up to Alert St. Lucie. That's our emergency notification system. And you're able to pick and choose, select which type of notification weather-wise you want to select. Because it's tied into the National Weather Service alerts. So anytime they push an alert, automatically the Alert St. Lucie, if you wanted to call you, text you, however, email you, that platform will be able to do that. So anytime you get a watch or a warning, severe thunderstorm warning, you'll get that type of notification. But if you turn that selection off, then you just pick and choose what you want to receive. But if there is a major incident that we need to notify the entire county, we have the ability to do that and basically bypassing that and just notifying every cell phone within the county with that alert.
So you want to make sure that you are on that list.
Yes.
And if you are new to St. Lucie County, that you understand that's one of the first things you should do. I have another funny story to tell. A friend of mine and I were at a golf range, and it was on a Thursday that FP&L was testing the emergency notice, and there was a guy that was next to us that was evidently a snowbird from out of town, and he was like panicked, and he said, "What is that?" And both of us said, "Oh, it's just the test. It's just the FBNL test." And then when we got in the car, we were giggling and thinking about how we could have really messed with the guy.
We're actually one of two counties in the state of Florida with a nuclear power plant. So that's why we have those sirens throughout the county, throughout the emergency planning zones that they call, to ensure that if there was ever an emergency, that we use all the means, all the methods available to notify the residents that there's an emergency. So that's why they have those sirens. They regularly test those to ensure that they're functioning properly, and we have a very good relationship with them. Again, we want to make sure that we are providing that notification to our residents or visitors should there ever be a need to do that.
Well, storm and hurricane wise, how dangerous is it to have a nuclear power plant, in your county?
It's really not. I mean, it's one of the safest locations I've toured myself. I know Sonja has gone as well. That facility is one of the safest facilities I've seen and been in. And the amount of coordination and planning that goes on with the crews over there in FP&L and the counties and surrounding counties, because it's not just St. Lucie County, it's our neighboring counties to the north and the south. It is a very good planning and collaboration. So anytime there is we know that there's going to be a hurricane coming through, we do that planning up to 5 days ahead to make sure that everything is the same way that we would do it normally. We'd do it with them as well. They're part of our team. They have a seat at our emergency operations center as well. So that coordination is always there to ensure that everything goes well, that they know, based on the information that they get from National Hurricane Center and National Weather Service, that they shut down their operations if they need to. So that collaboration and coordination is always there with them.
What are the special challenges that we're dealing with here on the Treasure Coast that other coasts or other areas may not have to deal with?
Well, the challenge is we're on the coast, period, there.
Yeah.
So, again, and we kind of remind people that Florida, we are a peninsula. So I often, tell people, so if the hurricane is coming on the east side, I'm going to the west. And I kind of asked them this one question, well, do you know how wide Florida is? And they give me an answer. I said, so how wide is the hurricane? And then it hits them. So if your hurricane is over 300 miles wide, what side are you really going to?
Yeah.
So, but this is the kind of information that we really want our citizens to know. So we don't want you to run, hide, and get yourself in danger because you're out there on the roads there. So, again, listen to the officials there. Keep your alerts going, and I'm going to use that example when you and your friend was on the golf course there. Our residents that have lived here, you're going to have to help educate our visitors too at that time. Yes, so you remind them when they have those questions, they're going like, oh my God, a hurricane, what is it? That's a great opportunity for you to educate them. And says, if you really want to hear more, contact this number and they can kind of help you understand how that works.
It might be something that if you know that people, your friends or your neighbors have recently moved to Florida, and there are a whole lot of people who have recently moved to Florida,
Yes.
then at least give them the heads up, or maybe drop off one of the hurricane guides for them. That would be a nice little, we're sure you're aware of everything, but however, this is specific to St. Lucie County, and we thought that this might be helpful for you for planning. Or also, as you hear that a hurricane is approaching, I know in our neighborhood there are certain people who go from door to door and ask how they can help other neighbors because they've got their shutters up already. Because not everybody has, some people have shutters where you push a button and they close. Yeah, right. The rolling shutters. So you don't have a lot of time to spend doing that, and some people have the steel ones that you have to put up, the aluminum that you have to put up, and those take a little bit longer. And then some people just have the plywood in their garage, and some people don't even have that. So you got for years after the 2004 hurricanes, we kept extra blue tarps in our garage. For our friends and our neighbors. So I noticed that one of the pages in your hurricane guide talks about knowing the lingo. And certainly those of us who've lived in Florida more than a few years have gotten used to certain words that weren't necessarily part of our vocabulary before. What type of lingo are you speaking of?
Well, the one I'm looking here is the watch and the warning. When it comes to hurricane watches and hurricane warnings,
yes.
A lot of times we do get those confused.
Yeah, they both start with W.
Yeah, well, so again, a watch there, and one of your meteorologists, they put it like this here. It was like making a taco, right?
Yeah.
So the watch is when you put out all the ingredients there, now you're ready to assemble it. The warning is after everything is there, and now you're ready to eat it.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't think of it
makes
that way.
Because I can logically make a case for either one. Like you watch it come, and so that's the more serious. But if you think of it like your taco, and you're watching the ingredients assemble, and that's very close to what is happening as the storm is approaching, because there's so many ingredients that are and I'm glad you mentioned the leaving for another coast, because even as far as in the last few hours, the track of a hurricane can change drastically.
And that's the thing about the cone of uncertainty. There's another lingo.
Oh,
that people
cone,
and
yes,
that whole
yeah.
cone, that whole hurricane path could shift anywhere in that cone.
Yeah.
So people focus on where it's tracking. And that's what happened with Ian, that people were tracking it to go further north, and unfortunately it hit our friends on the West Coast in Fort Myers area. Is making sure that you don't just follow that you listen to the local officials, and then if you have to evacuate, that you never evacuate hundreds of miles, only evacuate tens of miles. And also, if you really feel safe at your home and you're away from a flood-prone zone or evacuation zone, and you feel secure at home, that's probably the best place that you can be at, or maybe with friends and families away from that danger zone. So that's one of the things that we also tell them, that a shelter is a refuge of last resort, that not necessarily because there is an impending storm coming in that you have to go evacuate. So always, as you're preparing, part of that preparedness process is to ensure, where would I go if I don't feel safe at home, but yet I don't want to go to a shelter. Obviously, COVID kind of changed how the shelter operations are. We still have shelters in the county, but a lot of people have decided not to go into those shelters because of still that COVID fear or whatnot. So that's what we always encourage. If you feel safe at home, stay at home. If you're away from that danger, but if you feel that you need to go somewhere and you don't feel necessarily wanting to go to a evacuation shelter, talk to friends and family. Maybe that's the best way to go. But do not go to Orlando like some people did for Ian and other storms, and then it went through the storm went through that city. So sometimes we catch ourselves. It's like, hey, no, let me make sure there's only tens of miles. So that's another thing.
What if the reason that you want to leave your home is only because you're home alone? And is that what you're talking about with the
Not
plan?
necessarily home alone. I mean, it could be with families, but mainly there's a lot of people live by themselves. So again, if it's something that out of fear of being by yourself, check with friends, check with family, and have, again, part of that preparedness plan is to make sure, where exactly would I be going. And again, the shelters, obviously, if there's an impending storm, we will do everything and work with the school district to identify the shelters that we're going to be opening if there's a decision to open those. But part of that plan should be, where would I be able to go that feels safe so I don't have to stay and ride the storm alone. So that is part of your planning phase for the hurricane season. It should be done throughout the year.
Are there certain houses, I mean, we know, having lived here, that motorhomes are a type of structure that is more dangerous in a storm. But are there certain types of homes that are built, or apartments, or is it safe to go to a hotel? I mean, what kind of structures are the safest to be in?
So every time there's a watch or warning, or impending hurricane, we always, when we say evacuations and we say voluntary evacuations or strongly encourage evacuations, we're always going to include mobile home communities, RV homes, because of that. They're not structurally sound, and they obviously might be located in a flood-prone area. As far as the buildings and homes, obviously, since Hurricane Andrew down in Miami in '92, and throughout a couple decades now, building codes in Florida have surpassed to be structurally sound to multiple categories of storms. So from that building standpoint, the homes in Florida are somewhat built to withstand those strong hurricanes. But again, people may not feel the same because they're moving from up north where it might be a fully concrete block home or whatnot. But as far as the structures, again, if you're in an area where it's not safe, it's flood prone, it's part of evacuation zone, and you're not comfortable, you're not safe, that's where we encourage you, then let's go ahead and look for somewhere else for you to be safe. Even though the building itself might be structurally sound and could withstand that category, any type of category of hurricanes, but the person themselves may not feel comfortable enough, we encourage them to seek shelter elsewhere.
If you own your home, then you probably know, or someone in your household knows, whether it's flood prone or not, because you pay insurance, flood insurance, if you're in a flood zone. But if you're renting, you may not be aware. So are there maps that people can refer to?
Absolutely. Again, our website, www.stlucieco.gov/EOC. We have our geographic information system maps that show where our flood zones are, so they can either type in their address, or if they know the area, they can zoom into the area, and it will give them which area they're in, whether it's a flood-prone area or not. So that will be another tool that they can use as part of their preparedness phase for hurricane season.
And also a pretty good indication is when there's a hard rain, does it flood around your house?
And that's the thing. In Florida, we all know it's pretty much, even in areas that are not formally labeled as flood-prone zones, pretty much you're in Florida. A lot of the areas are going to flood, but anytime we have a storm like the ones we had last night, there's always going to be the possibility of being flooded around. So it's not just during hurricane season, it's throughout the years, throughout the year, and it doesn't matter where it is in the county, there's always going to be some type of flooding.
Are there other things that you need to do to prepare your yard and your neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, that's for the storms, as I mentioned before. Make sure you trim your trees ahead of that. Move any debris. If you have any chairs laying around, have around the yard and whatnot. So anytime you want to remove anything that could become a projectile and fly and go to someone else's home or vehicle. So anytime you know that there's a storm, you want to make sure that you remove anything that could be flying, like loosely fly away from your home or backyard.
How about people's roofs? I know, and I'm trying to remember what I know from watching TV and movies and what's actually true. But if like a window is blown open, does that compromise your roof?
Potentially could, because of the wind, how the wind is independent, but it just depends. I guess always it says, and I'm not a subject matter expert on that necessarily, but from prior history and understanding from different jobs, that could potentially do it, but it has to be a very strong force wind, sustained, not necessarily a gust of wind that goes throughout.
It's something else that I believe is a fallacy, but growing up in Miami, that people used to do was they cracked their windows to keep them from breaking.
Not recommended.
Absolutely not recommended.
In retrospect, it does not seem like a wise move.
No,
yes.
No. You want to keep everything secure within your home, and that's why obviously the shutters and whatnot, because you want to make sure that nothing is able to penetrate through the windows or even through your door. So cracking it, it's not recommended.
No. Okay. As far as losing power, in today's world, there are a lot of the power lines that are underground now. And so people don't lose power as frequently as they might have, I hate to say it, 50 years ago. 60 years ago when I was little, because you could guarantee if there was a strong wind back then, you were going to lose power. But people who've lived in Florida for a while, many of them own some type of generator. Are there safety tips that people need to know about the generator?
Yes. So if you have one that's connected to the home itself there, that you don't pretty much have to worry about because your house is wired into that generator.
Yeah. The whole house generator.
The whole house generator. Yes, the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
But it's the other ones that's mobile, and they like to keep them in the garage because they want it closer. But what you're creating is a hazard for yourself and potentially harming your family because of the air and stuff that's circulating there. You know, you can end up dying because you are actually taking that air there. So again, 5 feet away from any open windows and anything, keep it in the yard. If you're worried about somebody taking it, you may have to chain it down.
So wait until after the storm has passed.
Yes.
To turn your generator on.
Right.
And in today's world, part of your hurricane kit should include those little lanterns that you can just pull up and have, and you might have, you know, different other things to deal with having lost power on a temporary basis.
Yes.
But much safer. I know that that's true. Every time you hear about people in an area being without power for a long time, inevitably you hear about the dangers of someone who had their generator running and inadvertently.
Yeah, the carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
That's what I could. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
And
what
also
it is there.
the camp for the lights people, we don't encourage them to use candles. That's why you mentioned the lanterns and flashlights. They're solar powered now, so you, besides having battery power, lanterns and whatnot, you have solar power lanterns and flashlights. So those types of things you could go on for days if needed to utilize those. Also a radio. Battery power radio. We encourage residents to get one of those, so that way if the power does go out, you can still be informed with that.
And canned food, remember your canned food, you might use an electric can opener, but if you've got canned food, make sure you have one of the old-fashioned manual.
Right, we encourage them to do that as well. You know,
that should be part of your kit.
That should be part of
your
kit, yeah. Anything with that, non-perishable food, canned goods and whatnot. Water, we usually say 1 gallon of water per person per day. And usually about three days is the average, 35 days that we tell people to stock for food and water. Again, your medication, if you have prescription medication, to make sure that you always have enough to put in your go kit, or your emergency kit, like I mentioned before, flashlight, first aid kit.
First aid kit.
You want to make sure you have that as well. Again, the documents that we talked about earlier and copies of that, if you want to put in a sheet protector and put it in your bag as well, because you never know, you may have to run out of your house. You never know the circumstances. You want to make sure that you have all that in your emergency kit, and if you have to leave, fast, that you're able to retrieve that bag with your family and leave as safely as possible.
You can also post those important documents to a cloud and then be able to access them from another computer.
That's correct.
Somewhere else.
So that's the part of technology being helpful.
Yes,
in that instance. Absolutely, 100%. You can take copies as well. So have those digitally scanned copies up securely in the cloud. And then if it's we have to go somewhere, you can retrieve those from anywhere in the world.
What else do we need to know to prepare?
My biggest thing is our aging population. And you mentioned when you're in a community and you have aging population in your community there, offer them to help. Because sometimes they are living alone and they won't ask for that help there, so they probably want their shutters up. Help them get a go bag there, offer them to get them a lift there. Special needs shelters, that's another thing there. We have individuals that need to be in the special needs shelters, but they have a pet. Give us a call and we will help you accommodate those pets there. Now there's only 2 animals that's service animals, which is your dogs and your miniature horses. But for your other pets there?
Wait, miniature horses?
Miniature horses.
Okay.
That is correct. People think it's a cat, but no, ma'am. They're dogs and miniature horses.
That was a surprise, yes.
Those are only 2 service animals that that you can have. But we don't want you to be left alone in danger because you won't leave your animal.
Right.
So please give us a call. And like Ron says, the number is 772-462-8100. And if you have a question about special needs, we want to get you registered now and help you get your animal boarded to where they need to go. So again, aging population, please help.
And also for if they want to visit the website to register, because we do encourage our special needs, that needs special needs shelter to register. And that's going to be in the website, www.stlucieco.gov/special needs. So that way they can register there, be on our list. So if something does happen where we have to activate our shelters to include our special needs shelter, then they'll be on the list and they can just come on into our defense center, which is our special needs shelter.
Do they have to update it every year if they signed up?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we want to make sure that we always have, the county has the latest and greatest, so we do ask every year for our clients to register every year, re-register every year to make sure that the information is up to date and that we're able to contact them should we need to.
One of the other emergency things that I've heard of is make sure the whole family has an out-of-town or out-of-state person that they know the phone number of to reach, just in case. So maybe the same members of the family might end up separated and not be able to reach each other, but they can all reach their Aunt Barbara, and they can all, through Aunt Barbara, get connected again.
Right.
Yes.
Are there any other important things that we need to know?
The one thing that I really want to stress there, because I hear people say this all the time throughout Florida, I'm not going to leave if it's a category 2, but I'll leave if it's a 3. So my question to you is, what's the difference between a 2 and a 3? My answer is 1 mile. So why would you not prepare or consider evacuating for a 2, but you will for a 3?
Well, especially because along with the track changing, the miles per hour that a hurricane is,
and it can increase at any time.
Drastically.
So wait until that last minute when you're looking at is the categories. So no, you need to prepare as if it's a 5. I don't care if it is a 1, because again, your life is at danger. So let's take care of you. Doesn't matter what the category is.
And a lot of times you'll hear after a hurricane event that turned out to be a non-event, oh, well, everybody overreacted and I prepared. But for the grace of God, that hurricane didn't affect us drastically, but you never know when it's going to do something like what happened on the West Coast, where they were not prepared.
Right. I tell people 2019, Dorian, it sat right here on our coast. That was the grace of God that it did not come, because that was a serious storm. So yes.
And we were expecting it.
And another thing to always keep in mind is knowing your evacuation zones. So we know that the entire Barrier Islands, North Hutchinson and South Hutchinson, are evacuation zone A. So that area, along with part of the Indian River Lagoon, those are going to be the ones that are more prone to storm surge and flooding. So you want to make sure that the residents know where they live if they fall in that one, or and also that evacuation zone A, believe it or not, does include some parts of the San Lucie River right at the North Fork. So that also, even though it's further inland, is also part of the evacuation zone A, and also evacuation zone B, which is that west side of the San Lucie River. So even though there is further inland from the Barrier Islands, residents should be aware of their evacuation zones and where they live, because just because they're further inland from the Barrier Islands, they could be be called for evacuations as well.
If we had the 5 most important takeaways of this radio show, what would you say that they are?
Make a plan.
Make a plan.
Start
ahead
prepared.
of time.
Ahead of time
Yes.
there. Go through your go kit, because I'm hoping everybody has a go kit there, and rotate your items in there, your canned goods and stuff of that nature there. Replenish those there. If you have batteries, go and look at those batteries to make sure that you have everything you need. Husbands and wives, you need separate go kits. A lot of times the wives want to pack everything for the husband. You put everything in one bag. Separate go kits. Your fur babies, they also need a go kit too. So preparedness. Take pictures of your home, pictures of important documents, save them to the cloud if you know about the cloud. If not, make copies. Put them in that Ziploc bag, as Ron was saying, and put it inside your go kit there. Listen to the news. please go back and reactivate Alert St. Lucie so you can
If
get
you-
your
yes,
information.
yes.
So yes, those are what my top ones are.
And one thing I want to emphasize is for the plan, you want to make sure that your kids are involved in the plan, that they are aware that we are prone to hurricanes and any other type of disaster, and that's why the family is doing a plan. So get them engaged with, have them engaged and involved with the planning phase. It's helpful for them to understand, and if something does happen, they will be part of that help to get things ready to go and anything. So make sure that kids are also involved in their emergency planning.
And you don't have to scare them.
No.
You can just tell them, this is how we stay safe.
And yes.
We just have a couple more minutes, but one thing I want to address, and I'm glad you brought up the kids, is because after the storm, when the streets are flooded, the kids look at the water out there where the streets are flooded, and they think that this is like the ocean or a lake for them to play in. But no, that is so dangerous.
Right, it is, and that's why we strongly encourage parents to make sure that they keep their kids away from the flooded zones. Even if they're driving, even for the parents, if they see a flooded street, to turn around, don't drown, like we say. But truly encourage the kids to. Obviously, you don't know what's there. It is Florida. You can have an alligator swimming around anywhere there's a body of water, including flooded streets. We've seen it. You don't know what type of other wildlife is out there, so you just want to make sure that your kids are safe until those roads are properly drained. So strongly encourage them to stay away from any flooded areas.
And, you don't know, what else could be in the water, what kind of bacteria could be in the water,
That's
too. I've read some stories about people who were affected by bacteria just wading through water.
Yes.
So maybe your preparedness kit should have a pair of water shoes, too.
That's always encouraged too. I mean, anything that will make you truly prepare for any weather event. Yes.
And then after the storm, you want to see what's happening, and there's an eye, and it gets quieter. You may not know, if you haven't been through a hurricane, that there's an eye and everything gets quiet and still, but that doesn't mean that the hurricane is over. And you need to make sure that you stay safe, stay inside, or stay in your safe place.
And again, monitor we have news briefings at the Emergency Operations Center twice a day, or more, if not more, that's needed. Pay attention to the news media. We're going to be able to bring you all the necessary information, relevant information, to ensure that the residents and visitors know exactly what's going on. So that way, when it comes to the recovery phase, and we are at harm's way, we can let you all know. And so always pay attention to the media is what we strongly encourage our residents.
And things have changed a lot in the last 20 years as far as listening to the media. But I can remember, which was the storm in 2004 that sat on us? Was it Francis? Francis. And I can remember the TV newscasters who were all based in West Palm Beach, who were all telling people that the danger was over, the storm was over, when we had a hurricane sitting on top of us, and how frustrating that was. And that's why it's so important to get that local information.
And the thing too is, obviously time has passed for that. We have a good relationship not only with the National Weather Service, but with our local media as well, with those meteorologists as well. So we're in constant communication because we want to make sure that they're providing accurate information as well. So that at least has evolved, and they're more realistic. So it is a good relationship. They always come to our Emergency Operations Center. Anytime they have questions, they call us. So it's a good partnership that we have. It's that whole community partnership that we have with the media and the agencies around.
The other big partnerships I know are with the other power companies.
Yes.
And you always see the power trucks coming down the road, the interstate, whether they're going to a different location or whether they're coming to us. But the power companies all help each other.
Yes, they do. And we have, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have Florida Power and Light and also Fort Pierce Utility Authority. We have them at our Emergency Operations Center. So we're able to understand what's going on. If there's a priority area that we need to get working on, they're aware. So we're working hand in hand, coordinating with them. real time at our Emergency Operations Center. So yes, it's a great partnership we have with them.
And the hurricane guide that we talked about at the beginning of the show, again, that's available online at the county website, and we have the information for the website. But you can also get information from the county social media accounts
That's
too.
Correct.
From Instagram, from Twitter, and from Facebook. So go ahead and like St. Lucie County and St. Lucie County Emergency Services now, so you'll be getting that information. Go ahead and opt in to the alert services and get the information. You can, if you want to have a paper copy of the guide, you can pick them up at any of the library branches or any St. Lucie County office.
Yes, correct.
Can pick them up and have that, and while you're at it, maybe pick up an extra one for your neighbor who you know doesn't get out a lot. It's been great to have the two of you talking about hurricane preparedness and the fact that hurricane season, they just keep extending that. Like every time I hear them say, okay, we're now extending it through the end of November. I mean, seriously? We could have a hurricane for Thanksgiving?
We can. We actually had a system started before the beginning of hurricane season, and we've had storms after that, after November 30th. So, I mean, that's Mother Nature, but just always know that St. Lucie County Public Safety is always prepared. We have a great team. We have great collaboration with all the other agencies. So we're always here to serve our residents and ensure that we're staying safer, stronger, and more resilient.
And so even if you are home alone or you are new to St. Lucie County and you're not sure what you can do, the Department of Emergency Management for St. Lucie County, they've done the work and the research for you. You can just pick up a hurricane guide, go look on the website, sign up.
Yes, and also if they want us to go out to a homeowners association and do a presentation, more than happy. Call us at 772-462-8100, and we'll go out there, provide you with the guides, give you information, and just help you prepare as a whole.
That's awesome. Ron Guerrero is the director of the Department of Public Safety for St. Lucie County, and Sonja Hawkins is the division manager of emergency management for St. Lucie County. And they're available to come out to your organization and talk to you about hurricane preparedness. We learned a lot today, and remember, we're here every week, so tune in for more.
The Sue Ellen Sanders Show. Early morning weekends on WPSL, Port St. Lucie.